A while ago, I purchased this faulty PlayStation 5 for £215. I actually already made a video on it trying to fix it. Spoiler alert, I wasn't able to. Without immediately sending you away from this video, I'll leave a link to that one down below. Feel free to track back and watch it after. I then, however, revisited the console in a live stream. Another spoiler, I wasn't able to fix it. So essentially, you can look at this as part 3 of trying to fix this PlayStation 5. Originally, the PS5 had no power. We actually fixed that issue by replacing the Southbridge chip on the main board and also repairing the fan connector. At that point, everything was looking amazing until the disk drive wasn't working. And you might be thinking, that's not too bad, Joey, if the disk drive doesn't work. Well, if the disk drive doesn't work, you can't update the console. If you can't update the console, you can't use the console. So essentially, this is now a brick until today. Another YouTuber who goes by the name of The Coder, aka Phil, is an absolute amazing repair technician. He's figured out that if you take the BIOS chip and do a little bit of configuration, you can actually change the console from a disk version to a digital version, which completely makes the disk drive obsolete. In this circumstance, that is the best thing that I'm able to do with this PlayStation 5 to hopefully be able to claw some money back. I'm not going to go into detail personally as to how exactly this works. However, I will leave a link down below to Phil's YouTube video where he explains exactly what it is that I'm waffling on about right now. In my desperate attempt of trying to repair this PlayStation 5, I headed over to Phil's website, which is consolefix.shop, and picked myself up one of those BIOS chips, which I should hopefully just be able to install, update my console, and use it. Currently, when I boot the console, it goes straight into safe mode and displays two options: update system software and reset the PS5. No matter what option I choose, it does some of the update and then fails. I believe this is because it can't read the serial number of the married disk drive that is supposed to be in this PS5. It fails whether I do the update via USB or the internet. So without further ado, let's see if this works. A huge thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video. PCBWay offer many different services for all of your DIY needs. Standard PCBs, advanced PCBs, and even flexible PCBs. And hey, if you wanted to select red solder mask for your PCB, you can. They currently have great special prices on both their Flex and Rigid Flex PCBs. They also offer services such as CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and injection molding. Check out the link in the description for a $5 welcome bonus. So on the right, we have the current BIOS chip that is installed on my PlayStation 5 motherboard. This is for the disc edition, and this is the chip that was provided to me by The Coder. As you can see, pretty much identical. They both state Winborn. Importantly, I think they've got this long number that is identical, and the 4 numbers on the bottom are slightly different. This is a 2028. And this is a 2051. I don't know if that's because of different revision of the actual PS5 board. For example, this one is a 010. I don't know if this chip was taken from a 010 digital edition, or it could have been something completely different. For the sake of my own sanity and stupidity, I'm just going to mark this with a bit of a gold Sharpie pen to state that this is the old one. And we're going to go ahead and remove this IC and replace it with this one. I'm using a temperature of 480 degrees Celsius and an airflow speed of 99%, which is the highest it goes on my Aten 862D. Rotating the handle in a circular motion to try and warm up the board as quick as I can to hopefully remove the chip without any issues as the solder wets. The chip is located next to the Southbridge IC, and this area can take a lot of heat. The process was taking such a long time, so what I actually decided to do was apply leaded solder on the pins of the BIOS chip to lower the overall melting temperature. After a grueling 5 minutes, I managed to get the chip off. Now it's time to replace it with the new one. And to do this, I think it's best to prepare the area with more leaded solder. Then after the chip is on, go over the pins to ensure that it's secure. Post-editing, Joey will probably tell you that that was an absolute pain to do. For some reason, the chip just wasn't coming off the board. Now I'm going to put it back together and see if we can install the update file that we need. God, I'm an absolute nightmare. I forgot to put the clamp back on, luckily, before I started testing, because that would have overheated real quick. I think with this PlayStation, if I do actually manage to get it working, I'm going to test it thoroughly myself, but I may also end up just keeping it myself to see what the longevity is like on it. But from my perspective, it was broken, and now maybe, potentially, we're going to be able to get it working again. So it saves another console from the bin, because this would have just been trash. All right, moment of truth. It's all back together, not including the disk drive. I actually can't remember in Phil's video if you need to include the disk drive, both the power connector and the data cable. But I'm going to try it without and just see what happens, because why not? For testing purposes. Two things. I don't think I'm going to need my update file that I have on here, the PS update one. And I have plugged in my Ethernet because, again, I think I can just update from online. I'm simply using an update file from Sony themselves. I can't use my game capture scene because I can't change the settings, but I'll use my phone to record the screen. We have the all-important fan spin and the console turns on, which is the main thing. Now, what happens when we put our HDMI on? Because I've still got a blue light here on the actual console. It's not actually booted to a white light just yet. Still, okay, so it's just gone to a white light now, but nothing on screen. But it's also not gone back to my PC screen to show that there's no display. So I don't know what's happening here. Oh, I turned the monitor off. Let's try that again. HDMI 1. We get something? No, we don't. I'm trying HDMI 2. I think it's HDMI 2. There we go. Okay. Can't start your PS5. So push the button. There we go. It says connect to USB drive that contains update file for installation. So I have that file on this stick. So it is saying that I do need to update it. Put the USB stick in the back. The coder has most probably stated this on his video. Sometimes I just don't listen. We're now going for the update and let's see what happens. Fingers crossed. If I get this working, be amazing. Okay, it's gone to a preparing to update system software screen. That's a result. Let's see what happens next. Okay, it's now installed. Wow, that was very quick. It went from 4% to 80% in about 2 seconds. So we like that. It's now turned off. All right, please give us some good news. I think it's restarting. Back on to HDMI 2. It's restarted, but I still have a blue light on the console. It hasn't gone to a white light just yet. It's been on a blue light for about 20 seconds, I'd say. 20, 30 seconds. I don't know if it, okay, now we've got a white light. So that was probably about, I'd say 40 seconds to a minute. Aha! Yes, okay, 2 seconds, I'll go over to game capture. Perfect, so I've just disabled HDCP, which is what stops me from recording all my Elgato game capture scene. But would you look at that? We have access to the PS5. It's got FIFA 23 on, that's on the actual console storage itself. I wonder if it works. It's because I'm not signed in, I can't actually use it. I currently have my Ethernet cable plugged in, so I'm just gonna check and make sure that I can search for Wi-Fi networks, make sure that's okay. Okay, yeah, I've got a good 3 that have showed up, which means that the Wi-Fi seems to be absolutely fine. For those who want to know this information, system software is version 23.01. So this is the latest version. I'm literally gonna reset the PS5, so we're gonna click on reset. If you reset, all data is gonna be gone. Yeah, fine. So I'm going to reset it completely. That's then going to allow me to sign into PSN myself and just make sure that I can connect online to the PSN network and just verify that everything seems to be okay. But I can't believe that worked. I bought the chip from Phil for £25, and to say it's worth it is a complete understatement. I paid £25 and I do a little bit of soldering for that chip, or I waste £215 and put this console in the bin. It's literally a no-brainer. I think I don't speak on just behalf of myself, but pretty much the whole repair tech community when I say thank you, Phil, for sharing this information. And just like that, I'm installing Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Everything seems to be hunky-dory, no issues whatsoever. I now just actually need to put the PlayStation back together. Just like that, we have this absolute beauty put back together and ready to game. I haven't connected the drive because there's not really any need, so ultimately it's lighter than what it was previously, and you can't necessarily see that there's no disk drive in it. It does need a good clean, but I'm ridiculously happy with that result. I'm going to go ahead and update Sally's spectacular spreadsheet, and the reason being is even though I'm going to keep this PlayStation to myself eventually, as long as everything goes to plan with the updates, etc., I will probably sell this. With that, I will mention that a digital PS5 console only usually goes for between £250 to £300. I'll have to state exactly what I've done on the listing with this PS5, and for that reason, I will put it towards the lower end of £250. This here is where we stood previously. This $275 cost was for a PlayStation 4 and the PS5. Remember, the PS5 was only $215. But for complete transparency, I'm not going to add a new number though. I'm going to edit this gross profit on this tab here. Now I'm going to plus the £25 for the BIOS chip that I bought from the coder. That gives us £78. And if I go to sell the PS5, like I said, for $250, it gives us still a loss, but it's now minus £120 and 25 pence, which if I go in here and update it, that actually brings us into a profit for the first time in a very long time of £96 and 78 pence. Like I've stated before, a massive thank you to Phil the Coder on YouTube for providing us with this information and the chip. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel and his shop down below in the description. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'll leave another episode up here and you can come and see whether we make a profit or a loss. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.